Stay one step ahead with Dubai Eye.
Now, an interview I am particularly excited about because we're speaking to the man who literally rewrote the rulebook on marketing and public relations in the digital age. David Meerman Scott's book, The New Rules of Marketing and PR, is a Business Week bestseller. 500,000 copies or so sold in 29 languages. And if that's not enough, one of his follow-up books, Newsjacking, is named after a word he created. That word was officially recognised last year by the Oxford English Dictionary, which describes it as newsjacking. Noun, the practice of taking advantage of current events or news stories in such a way as to promote or advertise one's own product or brand. David Meerman Scott is in Dubai for the Recon Retail Conference, and he's in the Business Breakfast studio. David, good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Richard. It's great to be here.
So let's go back to the time before you wrote your groundbreaking book, The New Rules of Marketing and PR. Tell us when that was and why you decided this book needed to be written.
It was 2007 is when it came out, but I started thinking about it sort of 2004, 2005. I started writing because what I noticed is that the way people were marketing was not effective anymore because people were spending tons of money on advertising. They were trying to get people like you, journalists, interested, and it wasn't working so well. So what I decided was that what really made sense is for organizations to create interesting information on the web in the form of blogs, great websites, and other types of content. That was actually pre-social media, but then social media came on as well. All of those allow us to reach people directly.
Explain the background to that book, because you and Malcolm Taylor were having a conversation in the green room 5-10 minutes ago, and it turns out that your careers overlapped in Asia 15, 20, 30 years ago, because you weren't working in an advertising agency or a public relations consultancy, were you?
No, actually, I was working in marketing, but for media companies. So I worked for a company called Knight Ridder, and I was based in Tokyo for 7 years, Hong Kong for a couple of years. Then I worked for a company called NewsEdge, which was a news aggregator. So
Malcolm was working for Dow Jones, in the similar field.
And we were very similar, and we overlapped in the same field. And so I understood the idea of real-time news because this was the news wires. This was being sold to bond traders and stock traders and other Wall Street type organizations around the world. And because it was real-time, and this was pre-web, I feel like I got an unfair advantage when the web came in 1995 and then social media came around 2007, 2008, because I had already spent much of my career understanding this concept of real-time news. So then I said, oh my gosh, the whole idea of web marketing is publishing, where everyone else was thinking web marketing was advertising. No, web marketing is publishing really interesting information. So that was kind of a breakthrough in the sense that I was given an unfair advantage having been working in the real-time news business for so many years.
Let's talk about the word newsjacking, since you've brought up the news business. I love the definition of it, the practice of taking current events and using them to sort of promote your own agenda. Where are we seeing it at the moment in the public sphere, do you think?
It's happening everywhere. Even for people who don't know the word newsjacking, it's still possible to do it. So the basic idea is there's always news stories breaking, and obviously you know that because that's what you do. News stories break, and then media, you are looking for somebody to quote quickly. Who is an expert in this topic? There's a story that is coming out right now, and we need somebody to be able to quote. And we need someone to be able to interview right now. So the concept is when there's a news story breaking in an area that has your expertise, you then immediately do a tweet with a hashtag or write a blog post or shoot a YouTube video or do a live stream. And that gets your ideas into the marketplace. And then members of the media can find it and then, oh, that's somebody we should quote right there.
But that can go wrong as well. I mean, we had a horrific car crash here a few years ago, and there was a car company that tried to sort of jump on board with, I think it was a press release from memory, it was a wee while ago now, talking about the safety features their vehicle in relation to the crash.
Yeah, and gosh, I hate when that happens. What's happening there is somebody is trying to exploit that situation in order to get their brand noticed. And that's a real difference from the idea that I'm talking about, which is when you have valuable information. So I always suggest to people that if you have a direct tie to that story, that's cool. You should say something. But if the story has negative connotations, in the case of a car crash, obviously, then you have to be extremely careful and you have to have a direct tie. Now, for example, if there had been a car crash and people were injured, the cars were injured, were demolished, and you're an insurance expert, I need to understand how to file a claim. An insurance expert could help by creating, here are the 4 steps to file a claim, for example. But trying to sell a new car to someone who just crashed a car, no, that is not a good way of using newsjacking.
Let's talk about how this has changed since you wrote the book. It's more than a decade now. Social media is just beginning, but we've had so much change since then, the rise of hashtag fake news. What are the new rules of media and PR?
Yeah, so the book originally came out in 2007. It's now in the 6th edition. I have to update it every sort of 2 years because so many things continue to happen. There's a new social network that comes. Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook Live have come on the scene recently. And the whole idea of instant engagement is new. The idea of social media, I think people sort of misunderstand sometimes. What I believe social media allows us to do is to communicate right now, this second. We can use Twitter to find out what people are saying. We can use Twitter to push our ideas into the marketplace right now. And that's really, really, really interesting, the idea of real-time content. And that, again, goes back to my years in the bond trading world and in the real-time news business, is now all of us have the opportunity to be real-time. Anybody has that opportunity. And that's pretty new.
We've got lots of questions coming in. We're going to ask David Meerman Scott to stick around for a little while longer. And we're going to be asking him about some of his other books, The New Rules of Sales and Service. Lots of people working in sales. Interested to hear your thoughts on that, David. Also, Marketing Lessons from the Grateful Dead, one of your books from 7 or 8 years ago. We'll get your thoughts on that. Just before we take a break, though, David, this is all well and good, these ideas developed in Asia, where you were working closely alongside Malcolm Taylor, and in North America, where you're from. How do people tweak that in a place like Dubai or the UAE or the Arab world? You're speaking in a couple of hours to an audience of people predominantly based here.
So I've presented in 44 countries. I've traveled to 105 countries. These ideas work all over the world. And there's no question that they work all over the world. And I did a lot of research for this event that I'm going to be speaking at in a couple of hours, and it's around the shopping center and shopping mall area. And so I've noticed that so many people are sharing on Instagram when they're shopping. They share pictures of clothing if they're going clothing shopping. They share pictures of food when they're in restaurants. But so few restaurants and chefs and people who work in shops are responding and engaging with those people. It's such a huge missed opportunity. So this is happening everywhere, but what I've noticed in this region is there is not much engagement compared to what I'm seeing in other parts of the world.
David Meerman Scott is author of The New Rules of Media PR in the Digital Age. Any comments or questions for him? We'll be back with him in a few moments' time.
Stay one step ahead with Dubai Eye.